afternoon, or good evening, should I say. I'm Clellan Snedden. I'm the returning officer for the local government elections in South Lanarkshire, and I'd like to welcome you to this polling day and count awareness session. As part of the team today, I'd like to introduce you to Gordon Stewart, the Deputy Returning Officer, who's on the call. Gordon, if you speak, you should come up on people's screen.
Good evening, everybody.
Okay. Also with me is Stuart MacLeod, who's the Security Manager for the elections. Stuart.
Evening, everyone.
Okay. And we are also joined today by Stephen Conn from Police Scotland, who are supporting us in administering the election. And Stephen, if you're on the call, can you also say hello?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. So prior to tonight, you should have received a copy of the information provided at the previous awareness session, both in Word and in the recorded MS Teams format. Again, a note of tonight's session will be prepared and will be sent to you after this session, and in due course a link to the recorded presentation, which will also be available on the South Lanarkshire Council website. In addition to this, I've assumed you've also received and watched the recorded count PowerPoint presentation, and that will allow us to talk more specifically on any other parts of the count arrangements today. So the session today, the purpose, I'll just run through the detail. First of all, to provide you with an update on postal vote arrangements, then to give more detailed information on polling day and count arrangements, to provide information in relation to post-election arrangements, and to provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. And please feel free to ask questions at any point as we go through the agenda today. Please use the MS Teams hand icon, and colleagues will pick up on your indication you wish to ask a question, and they'll bring that to my attention. I'll also stop at natural breakpoints as we go through the presentation to provide an opportunity for any questions that arise. And finally, I'll provide some information in relation to post-election arrangements. So the first area I'm going to cover is that of postal vote arrangements. And just as a reminder, in relation to the issue of postal votes, the postal votes were issued on Thursday, the 14th of April 2022, and Tuesday, the 19th of April 2022, for the majority of postal voters. And a final mailing was sent to postal voters tomorrow, on Tuesday, the 26th of April 2022. However, anyone who spoils or loses their postal pack can, of course, receive a reissue pack by contacting the election office up until 10 p.m. on Thursday, the 5th of May 2022. In terms of the opening procedures, full opening sessions, the postal vote opening process is being conducted on floor 6 of the council offices in Almada Street in Hamilton. And as a reminder, stage 1A opening commenced on Tuesday the 19th of April, with full opening commencing today on Monday the 25th of April 2022. And I'll run through the stages just as a reminder. So first of all, stage 1A involves the opening of outer envelopes to check the receipt of appropriate documents and record the totals received. Stage 1B then involves the scanning of the postal voting statements and adjudication of the personal identifiers. For stage 2A, we will open envelope A, that's the ballot paper envelope, to check receipt of both ballot papers and record the totals. And then finally, stage 2B involves a scan of the back of the ballot papers. These stages allow us, following the close of poll, to ensure that all postal votes will be processed and ready for verification at the count on Friday the 6th of May. In relation to postal vote sweeps, arrangements are in place to ensure that all postal votes received at the polling stations on polling day, are delivered to the postal votes team during the day and at the close of poll. Final postal votes received from Royal Mail will be delivered to the postal votes team at 9:45 p.m. on polling day. The remainder which have been handed into polling stations during the day of the poll will be prepared and dealt with at some point after 10 p.m. And in relation to postal vote statistics, there have been a total of 50,946 postal votes issued across the 20 wards in South Lanarkshire. And as at this morning, so the right up-to-date figure, there have been 21,773 postal votes returned. An up-to-date breakdown of postal votes per ward will be included in the count information pack, which you'll receive with your passes. Okay, I'll just stop there, just check if there's any hands or any questions on the information today. No. Excuse me. So in relation to postal vote, polling day arrangements, the polling place setup, the cleaning regime and polling places setup will take place on Wednesday, the 4th of May 2022, ready for the staff arriving on polling day. For polling staff, the staff will arrive at 6:30 a.m. to complete their setup in time to receive voters commencing at 7 a.m. There will be one presiding officer and one polling clerk on duty at each polling station. And COVID marshals will also be on duty at some of our larger polling places, and they'll work closely with janitorial and caretaking staff to ensure safe arrangements are in place for staff, voters and candidates and agents attending the polling place. A polling station inspector will visit the polling places to support poll staff, and the election team will be available to assist throughout the day with arrangements. And as usual, we would have standby polling staff who have been recruited to work at short notice if required. And given the current infection rates for COVID, that's a necessary precaution in case of late unavailability of staff. Which takes me on to COVID safety measures. And as I've mentioned in previous briefings, there will be a number of measures in place to ensure safe arrangements at the poll. For those who are familiar with election events and who were not part of the event last year, at the tail end of last year, for last year's parliamentary elections, these include the sanitising stations being available to voters on arrival and as they exit the building. The guidance in relation to face coverings that's in place at the time of the poll will be adhered to within polling places. So just be aware that that has changed fairly recently, but if there is a further change, we will reflect the current advice and guidance as at the day of the poll. We will have signage in place to advise on the measures, both externally and internally. We will operate to 1 metre distancing markers in place to help people keep safe. You will see screens, perspex screens between staff and voters, again, to ensure the protection of both. We will have a one-way system operating inside each of the polling places wherever possible. And stationery will not be shared, including pencils. We will have the pencils, single-use pencils available for use by voters on the day. And as mentioned previously, COVID marshals will be on duty at some of the larger polling places to ensure that we can coordinate the numbers within the polling places and to assist with the cleaning regime, which will be in place throughout the day. And then finally, again, measures that you're familiar with in other settings, the rooms will be well ventilated to ensure that there's a throughput of air within the venues. So on entry to the polling places, we will have notices. Just a reminder, there will be a notice displayed at the entrance to each of those polling places to advise on voter turnout, and we will endeavour to update that approximately every 2 hours. In relation to polling day issues, the election office will be open from 6 a.m. and any issues regarding polling places or polling staff should be brought to the attention of the election team as soon as possible. They can be contacted on 01698 45 5745 and the election team will bring any issues to my attention as appropriate on the day. As mentioned in previous briefings, we have a number of shared polling places, so that's more than one ward in a single building. So there are 5 shared polling places, and arrangements will be in place to keep voting set up distinct from for each ward, and staff will be extra vigilant to ensure the correct ballot papers go into the correct ballot boxes. But as a reminder, the 5 shared polling places are, first of all, Stonehouse Primary School, and Ward 5 voters from SL 047 will vote at Station 1, and voters from SL 048 will vote at Stations 2, 3 and 4. Also in Stonehouse Primary School is Ward 20, and 1 voter from SL 168 will vote at Station 1. The second shared place is Crosshouse Primary School, and Ward 6 voters from registers SL 062 will vote at Stations 1 and 2, and voters from SL 172 will vote at Station 3. For Ward 9 in Crosshouse, voters from register SL 080 will vote at Station 4. The third of the shared polling stations is Whitlaburn Community Resource Centre, and for Ward 10, voters from registers SL 089 will vote at Station 1, and for Ward 13, voters from registers SL 107 and SL 176 will vote at Stations 1, 2 and 3. The fourth shared place is Springwell's Neighbourhood Hall, and for voters for Ward 15, voters from registers SL 122 will vote at Station 1, and for Ward 17, voters from registers 175 will vote at Station 2. And then finally, the fifth shared place is St John's Primary School, and for Ward 17, voters from registers SL 131 will vote at Station 1. For Ward 18, voters from registers SL 147 will vote at Station 2. And for Ward 19, voters from registers SL 157 will vote at Station 3. We've highlighted some changes to polling places from previous elections, and in previous sessions that I've gone through those. I'm getting a wee bit of feedback. If there's someone with their microphone live, could you mute that at the moment, please? That would be helpful. Thank you. So changes to polling places. So again, just to flag those, as well as advising voters where there's a change in a polling place on the polling cards, we'll also be displaying notices at the previous venues to redirect voters to the appropriate polling place on polling day. So notices will therefore be displayed as follows. Voters from Abington Hall will move to Abington Primary School while some repairs are being carried out. Voters will move back to Tom Craig Centre instead of Law Primary School, where they were temporarily decanted for the previous election. Voters from Kirton Home Hall will move to Kirton Home Primary School within Ward 9 while repairs are being carried out there. Westburn Hall voters will remain at St Charles Primary School due to the premises being unsuitable. Voters will move back to St John's Church Hall from Hamilton Caledonian Bowling Club. And then finally, voters for the Banqueting Hall, South Lanarkshire Council headquarters at Almada Street, will move across the road to Montrose House due to the premises currently being used as a vaccination centre. Okay, and I'm just going to cover one further piece of advice on the campaigning on polling day. And I mentioned at previous sessions, but I'll summarise these again. And I know that the election team have had a few inquiries. So first of all, in relation to display of advertisements and publicity materials, just as a reminder, and you'll find this in your advice, these are not permitted. Campaigning and leafleting is not permitted within the curtilage of the polling place. And again, as the previous sessions noted, the presiding officer will have a layout plan showing the curtilage of each polling place. In relation to rosettes, with candidate or party details, these are permitted to be worn. However, if someone's in the polling station for a prolonged period of time for the purposes of detecting personation, they should remove their rosette in those circumstances. In terms of photography, there should be no photographs taken inside the polling station to protect the secrecy of the ballot. And in terms of passes, candidates and agents should show their pass should they wish to enter the polling station. And again, candidates and agents are asked to ensure that their agents comply with all guidance and mitigation measures which have been introduced to ensure COVID safety at the polling places. So again, I'll just stop there and see if there's any hands. Gordon, do we have any shown? No?
I don't see any, Cleland, no.
Okay, I'll continue on with the briefing, but just a reminder, if there aren't any questions, just raise a hand. So moving to the close of poll arrangements. At 10 p.m, the priority is for the presiding officer to conclude voting arrangements, seal the ballot box and complete the ballot paper account. The polling clerk will provide support with the completion of the remaining statutory documents and the clearing up of the polling stationery. If you wish to add a seal to the ballot box, you can do so at 10 p.m. It is helpful to allow polling staff the space and the opportunity to complete their duties prior to assisting you with any questions you may have. And when all tasks are complete, all polling items will then be uplifted by the Housing and Technical Resources team for delivery to the count venue. And the following will take place at the close of poll at 10 p.m. Postal vote opening will be concluded. Ballot boxes will be taken to the count venues and set up ready for the count on the Friday. Unused ballot papers will be verified at the count venue. This is an observable process which will take place at 10 p.m. onwards. However, you may already be aware this process simply verifies the unused ballots and you will not see any marked ballot papers or be given any information in relation to the verification of this process until the completion of the verification of the used ballots on the Friday. So that moves us through onto the count arrangements themselves. Entry to the count is strictly by pass only. Please wear your lanyard with pass and be ready to hand in your additional printed pass to record your arrival. You will have been allocated either a morning or afternoon session marked on your pass. You should also have photographic ID ready for checking when you arrive at the count. I mentioned previously my intent is to safely maximise the number of agents that we can offer access to the count. By these arrangements, we are looking to ensure compliance with capacity limits advised by building standard colleagues whilst ensuring the maximum allocation of passes issued. So I'm trying to, above all else, ensure that we have a safe, COVID safe event, but we're trying to maximise the number of people we can have at any time within the venue. In relation to police arrangements, I'd like to make you aware of some information. So whilst we've been informed that there's no intelligence to suggest that the election could be a target, Police Scotland have provided reassurance that they will provide a visible presence at key sites. And as usual, police will also be on duty at the count and patrolling polling stations on polling day as well. At this point, I'll maybe invite Stevie Conn from Police Scotland to say anything additional or take any questions from those attending today. So Stevie, is there anything additional you'd want to add to provide some further reassurance?
Yeah, Mr. Snedden, thanks very much for the invitation to speak this afternoon. There's just a few key points I'd like to touch on, and you've already covered some of them. So our duties on the day and the lead up is to work in partnership to deliver a safe, fair and inclusive election. The national threat level remains at substantial, which means an attack is likely, and we should all remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity. The Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre continues to assess that any attack would most likely be conducted by self-initiated terrorists, or previously referred to as lone actors. But I must stress there is no current intelligence to suggest a specific threat in relation to this election or to any candidates standing across Lanarkshire. Police Scotland have a robust plan in place across the country. We have both national and local structures, including local policing, which is augmented by specialist departments. Our resources have been dedicated to both the 5th and 6th of May and will be visiting polling stations across South Lanarkshire during the opening hours. The focus of our operation will be to keep people safe and to maintain order inside and directly outside polling places. On that note, I would just like to take the opportunity to remind candidates to follow the expected code of conduct, whether that's in the virtual space or at any polling places, stations and even the count venue, and Police Scotland officers will be on hand to challenge any behaviour that falls below these standards. I'd like to reaffirm that if you have any concerns relating to protective security matters, either prior to, during or post-election, then please do not hesitate to speak to the officers that will be on site or by contacting police on 101. And should you feel that an incident necessitates an immediate police response, please contact us by calling 999. I say that's the kind of main points that I wanted to cover this afternoon, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Stephen. It is a big reassurance. We partner very closely with colleagues in Police Scotland around the delivery of elections. Can I check, Gordon, is there any hands raised for any queries for Stevie?
I don't see any again, Cleland.
Okay, Stevie, you must have nailed every point. Okay, but you're available and colleagues are available should there be any queries that arise later. Okay. So just continuing on with some of those security arrangements, in addition to the photographic ID, in line with other public events, checks may be requested for bags and bulky jackets for anybody attending the account. To avoid such checks and speed up entry, if possible, please consider not bringing kind of large bags, etc., to the account if possible. Again, I would stress that these checks are there just to provide reassurance, and there's no specific threat, as Stevie's outlined, against the election, either nationally or locally. However, as at all previous events, I would ask each of you to be vigilant in and around the count and bring to the attention of the count team any issues or concerns around security that you may have. Before every election, we give details of procedures which should be followed if there is any need to evacuate the count centre. You will find these in the count information pack issued to all attendees at the count, and it's in the section under emergency arrangements. You should be aware if this situation arises that the mobile phone number you've provided to us at the point of nomination will be used to text you to advise of the count recommencing. In terms of car parking, parking at the count venue is limited, and this is a large event, and the numbers of candidates standing in this election has necessitated the allocation limit of 2 car parking passes per candidate. And as we continue to review car parking capacity, if additional passes are not required by any candidate, then we might be able to extend that further. But I would ask if you could please advise of any increased requirements you may have, and if there are additional spaces, I will consider the responses and allocate accordingly. I would highlight those who require personal assistance, should I say, would not count towards your 2 persons. And if you can identify that to the election team, we'll respond accordingly. But please try to coordinate the kind of car share arrangements so that we can maximise the number of spaces that we are able to allocate those out. The car parking passes similarly will specify whether the ward or wards that you have a direct interest in is being counted in the morning or the afternoon session, to ensure that we can progress the count in an efficient manner as possible, and that those attending in the afternoon sessions are within the building in good time for the session starting. I would ask that where possible you depart from the count venue car park promptly if you're part of the morning session. Car parking passes should be displayed on car windscreens on arrival and will be checked by security. Where a disabled car parking space was requested, this is in place for the spaces just outside the John Wright Sports Centre. For those who have got an interest in both AM and PM sessions, you'll be provided with a car parking pass for both sessions and just display them adjacent to each other on your windscreen. In relation to hospitality, you should be aware that tea, coffee and biscuits will be provided at the candidate and agent's marquee, and access to your marquee will be clearly signposted to maintain a one-way system in place to direct you into the marquee. A separate area within the centre has also been set aside for staff purposes. The tables are set out to permit physical distancing and to respect the maximum capacity limits advised to us. But my overall request is use a bit of common sense in staggering breaks and free up seats within a reasonable time to allow others access. Treat this like the common sense that you're displaying day in, day out, as we are aware of some of the COVID risks. A screen will also be set up within the marquee area, which will be updated regularly with the progress of results as wards are declared and wards progress of the count is undertaken. In terms of smoking, there will be no smoking in the grounds of the count venues. That includes the car parks. Instead, smokers will be expected to exit the site and avoid gathering in front of the building or on the site. So again, if you can share that with your colleagues to ensure that we have a clear access in and out of the building. In terms of mobile phones, I appreciate candidates and agents may have mobile phones in use, and I would ask if you're using your mobile phone in the count venue, you stay away from the count workstations, because I'm conscious that mobiles today all have capability of taking photographs, etc. And this avoids any embarrassment or inconvenience for everyone. So, Gordon, I think we've got a hand up. I'll maybe just stop there and take that question. Robert, can I bring you in?
Hi. What it is for the count, will there be chairs in the count places? Chairs to sit on?
There'll be a number of chairs in the count venue should people require a seat, Robert. The flow, as you'll see from the layout plan in the count pack, shows a kind of flow so that people will be moving around, etc. But I'm conscious that it could be a lengthy period of time and that some attendees will require seats, and they'll be available.
Yeah, because we were told the last time that we were booked for people, you see. Well, I don't need it all the time, but I need a chair sometimes. I get a knee operation in November, so I can do so much standing and so much sitting. You see, that's why I'm mentioning about the chair. So,
Robert, there'll be chairs there. Should you require a chair at a time and every other chair is being used at that point in time, speak to a member of the election team and we'll make sure that additional chairs are brought out.
Right. Okay.
But that will be available for anyone who requires it.
Right. Okay, thank you. Now, I've got two other questions, but I want to bring it in at the end because it's not actually on this agenda. It's to do with the forums. Okay.
No problem, Robert. I'll stop at the end and then we'll take any roundup questions.
Right. Thank you.
Gordon, is there any other hands at this stage? No.
Don't see any just now, no.
Okay, so I'll continue on with some additional information. So Wi-Fi at the count, Wi-Fi availability will be made available throughout the count venues on Friday the 6th of May. Should you wish to use the Wi-Fi, then please connect your device as follows. So navigate to the settings app on your device, select Wi-Fi from the menu, select the option for election. You'll see that coming up, and then enter the password, which you'll be advised of in advance of the count. So on arrival, we'll be able to confirm that to you. As I mentioned, photography, not just in your mobile phone, but photography generally is not permitted in or around the count area. And in relation to the pack, the layout plan is now finalised, and that's within your count information pack, and that'll be available to you. So moving on to the procedures for the count itself. And again, this will be of interest to those who have not gone through one of the electronic count processes previously. So first of all, in terms of the floor 6 of Armada Street Council offices, you'll see that final postal votes opening session will take place there, whereas the main count will be at John Wright Sports Centre in East Kilbride. And at John Wright, you'll be able to observe the receipt of ballot boxes and secure storage of those overnight, and receipt of all other poll stationery will take place at the John Wright. There will be the check of unused ballot papers and the ballot paper accounts, and this information will be recorded on the verification sheet. And then finally, the stationery clear up, all remaining stationery will be dealt with and stored appropriately. For the actual count itself, just to run through the order, the count will be run with 5 wards being counted simultaneously. The order of the ward counts will be numerical in groups as follows. So due to the limited capacity of the hall, in order to maximise the number of agents for each candidate attending the count, I've split the count into 2 sessions, morning and afternoon, and the wards counted in each session will be as follows. In the morning session, commencing with the ballot boxes opening at 8 AM, followed by the e-count processes commencing at 9 AM. Zone 1 will have the following wards in order. Zone 1 will have wards 6 and 11 in the morning session, then 16 and 1 in the afternoon session. For Zone 2, the morning session will be wards 7, followed by 12, and in the afternoon session, wards 17 and 2. Zone 3 in the morning session will be wards 8, then 13, and then in the afternoon session 18, then 3. Zone 4, the morning session will be wards 9 followed by 14, and in the afternoon 19 followed by 4. And then the final zone, zone 5 in the morning, will be wards 10 followed by 15, and then in the afternoon wards 20 followed by 5. During the period of the count, the large screens that will be available within the count venue will display in a split screen the following information. So it will show first preference votes for each of the wards being processed on a rotational basis. The first preference votes for candidates will be displayed until the count for that ward reaches 80%. Thereafter, the screen will display 80% of first preference votes reached. The screen does not show transfers. The second part of the split screen will show progress screens, and this progress screen provides progress from registration, scanning, verification, adjudication, and then returning officer adjudication, and then the count for each ward being dealt with. So when you see the count information pack, you'll see the kind of format of those displays. On Friday, the 6th of May, the following count processes will be undertaken. I'll just run through these in sequence. So at 8 AM, the count will commence with the opening of the ballot boxes and the orientation and transfer of the ballot papers into the count trays ready for the electronic count. At 9 o'clock, the electronic count commences, and they'll run through these processes. So firstly, the registration of the ballot paper accounts for each of the ballot paper trays for the relevant wards. Then the scanning of the ballot papers, then the verification of the totals that have been scanned against the total registered votes. That moves us into the standard adjudication process, and operators can accept good ballot papers, including partial acceptance due to a break in sequence. So for example, if you get 1, 2, 4, 5, then 1 and 2 can be accepted. However, the standard adjudication operators will defer remaining doubtful ballot papers for returning officer adjudication. Returning officers adjudication operators can accept good ballot papers, they can reject ballot papers, and they can put ballot papers on hold for further investigation or adjudication. They can also process manual entries, that is ballot papers which cannot be scanned due to a damaged barcode. I've appointed deputy returning officers to assist me in undertaking the role of returning officer adjudication on my behalf, just given the volume of adjudications that will require to be undertaken on the day. An announcement will be made to attendees to communicate to candidates the commencement of the returning officer's adjudication of doubtful ballots for each ward, and candidates should ensure that they are in attendance for this process prior to the result being produced. You will see these displayed on screen, but you will also get an audible readout of the adjudications. In terms of doubtful ballot papers, I have detailed some sample doubtful ballot papers in the accompanying papers, which will be circulated to you after this presentation. It's worth taking a few minutes to discuss the expectations for doubtful ballot papers. So decisions taken by myself and my deputy returning officers will be based on the Electoral Commission's guidance and their placemat. And you'll find copies of that in your count information pack, but also available to you in online. And also we will have regard to any other advice from the Electoral Management Board for Scotland and their guidance. Please make yourself aware of the contents of the Electoral Commission's placemat and the EMB guidance, as this will be used to adjudicate on ballots. And a copy of the Electoral Commission's placemat is in that information pack at page 40, just to signpost it for you. We will then produce a result, and on completion of the returning officer's adjudication duties, the result can then be produced. I do want to cover some information that I shared at previous awareness sessions. If you feel that anything is wrong or anything you're unhappy with during the process of the count, or that you've seen during that process, please do not wait to the end of the night, or the end of the session, should I say, when I've discussed the result with you before raising these issues or requesting a recount. approach a member of the election team or myself directly immediately you have any concerns. There would need to be appropriate grounds for requesting a recount, not just a close result. I want to be clear about that. There needs to be an issue regarding the process for me to consider a recount, and I would expect that to be flagged up at the appropriate time, not at the point I'm sharing the outcome. So please speak to an information officer if you have any of those concerns, and they'll advise me of any issues arising. So moving to the point at which we have a draft result. Once the result has been produced, I will make arrangements to discuss the result information with candidates and election agents, and there's an area in the layout which is identified for me to bring candidates and their agents together to share with them the outcome of the ballot. I will then seek candidates and agents' acceptance of the results before providing a copy of the results to candidates and agents. We will then access the stage where I will make the formal declaration of the result. And again, just given the numbers of people who are standing in this particular election, I'll give the opportunity for successful candidates to say a few words if they wish to do so. Candidates will then be led from the stage into the main hall, back into the main part of the hall, and successful candidates will be directed to the successful candidate area, where we will be able to issue their councillor pack and have their photographs taken, and they will receive the signed letter from myself. Thereafter, that will give you an opportunity to move on to the candidates and agents marquee. So this is the same process for each of the wards until all wards have been declared in both the morning session and then with the mirror of that in the afternoon session. Copies of the results documents will be distributed to those in attendance and also published on the council's website. Okay, I'm going to stop again just around this stage, see if there's any hands, Gordon. Not seeing anything. Alan Cresswell. Alan, were you looking to come in? Alan Cresswell, are you looking to come in?
See Barbara Simpson's hand up there, Clint.
Yeah, I'll take Barbara in the interim. I'll maybe come back to Alan. Barbara, can I bring you in? Thanks.
It was just to check in the morning. I know you're starting off at 8 with postal votes. Is that for the whole of South Lanarkshire, or is there a separate equivalent in the afternoon for the wards that weren't counted in the morning?
Okay, Gordon, do you want to run through that process again?
Yeah. There'll be a separate session for the full process. The ballot box opening for the afternoon sessions will commence at the start of the afternoon session. So all the candidates and agents that have an interest in the afternoon session will see the full process, or be able to see the full process from the ballot box opening through to the e-count session. So the split will be the full process both morning and afternoon.
Right. There was also another point. When you've got two wards in the same zone, are they counting simultaneously, or is it one ward, say like Ward 17 first, followed by the other one that's counting in that zone?
I think we're doing this in almost like an area by area basis. So if the council area is generally split into 4 administrative areas, so Clydesdale, East Kilbride, Hamilton and Rutherglen Cambuslang, you would find all wards within the one area being counted at the same time. So Gordon, that should cover the 5 areas. I'll just look for that to be verified.
That's correct. If the zones have 2 wards that are counted, they'll be fully counting one ward followed by the second one, so they won't be counted 2 simultaneously. Parts of the process may overlap, but if there's scanners or scanning for the first ward in the morning session, then they'll conclude that and then they'll move on to the second ward within that session. The process does overlap some stages of that, so there may be some adjudications for the first wards taking place while the second ward commences scanning, but the actual distinct processes should be distinct from one another, so you'll never have a scanner doing two wards.
So hopefully that's helpful, Barbara. The intention was to try taking your 2 points together, was to try and avoid someone who had an interest in the afternoon having to get up at 8 o'clock, see that BART and then leave, or for areas, adjacent wards, etc., within an administrative area being dealt with at different times. So hopefully that shows you and makes sense of that. And you'll see the table within the information that we're going to share out with you that will show that run through of the various zones and how that the 5 wards is allocated administrative area by administrative area, just to try and make good use of your time. Okay, I'll maybe come back to Alan Cresswell. I'm not sure, Alan, whether your hand went up just temporarily, but
Alan put a comment in the chat, Cleland, saying that
he?
he didn't know why his hand was up, so he's
All
taking
right,
it back down.
Okay, apologies for badgering you, Alan. So I'll move on to the last bit of information before we come to general questions at the end. So we've arranged a final kind of demonstration for candidates and agents, and we're going to run that on Wednesday, the 4th of May at 2:30 up at the John Wright Sports Centre, with the count venue fully formed. So for those who have not been party to a single transferable vote election run through the e-counting process, I would encourage you to come along, have a look at the demonstration, ask any questions so that you have a sense of what to expect on the count day on the Friday. So you'll get a demonstration of the various stages. So you'll see a pack going through registration, going through scanning, verification, adjudication, and then the returning officer adjudication processes. So you'll be able to see that on a kind of dummy pack. So you'll be able to review the declaration reports that I'll use during the results declaration. And most importantly, you get a chance to ask as many questions as you want about the process. And I repeat what I've said previously, there are no stupid questions around this. And please feel free to make sure that you've got all the information available to you require. In terms of post-election information, quite often candidates are keen to know about the marked registers, including postal vote marked registers, and they'll be available for viewing from Monday the 9th of May onwards. Paper and electronic copies will be available as soon as possible after that date. So if you do want to view the marked registers, contact the election office directly. And if you want to request a copy of the marked registers, they can assist you with that. I would also just remind candidates of the limit on election expenses, and the Electoral Commission website provides you with guidance and related forums. If you require any assistance, you can contact the Electoral Commission in Edinburgh, and their contact details are contained in the notes of this meeting, which you'll receive as soon as possible at the end of this session. For the purposes of election expenses, the electorate figures are those as at Wednesday, the 23rd of March 2022. And the deadline for submitting returns is Friday, the 10th of June 2022, assuming a declaration of the results is made on Friday, the 6th of May, which I intend doing. Please return them to the election office, 21 Beckford Street in Hamilton. And again, the full address is on the note that will be circulated. So hopefully that's a helpful run through. It might be a bit of repetition for those who have been at each of the sessions or who have viewed the recording of each of the sessions. But again, I'm just trying to pull out some of the key information for you. My overriding intent is to ensure that we deliver an election that's observable and provides confidence in the electoral process, but also that's delivered in a safe and accurate manner. And I'll maybe just stop at that point, and I'm going to take a couple of additional questions from Robert to begin with, and then if there's others who want to add any general questions, if you can just raise a hand, I'll bring you in sequence. So Robert, can I come back to you just now?
Yep. Okay, right, thank you. One of the things is I was asked with some of the candidates who are filling these forums in for me, the description, is that the party name, or if it was an independent, would that be independent in that box?
Gordon, you want to pick that one?
It would be where it says description. That would be either the party name or if the candidate's independent, it'd be independent.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We just wanted to make sure. Right, thank you. The other question was, I'm an election agent for 4 candidates. See for the other 3, are we allowed an additional counting agent, or does that just get lost?
No, Robert, and it was something that was covered in a previous session. The intent was to provide 4 spaces for each candidate, etc. If someone's acting as an election agent for multiple candidates, you've got 4 spaces effectively, and if you are using up one, you just need to coordinate between the candidates you're supporting.
Yeah.
But this is all to do with the total number of people, etc.
Yes.
And you know, we'll be as flexible as we can, as
Mhm.
long as we know for each of the 4 candidates that they've got 4 each. Yeah.
Right. Okay. See on the actual forums themselves. See for the people that want that get. I'm not going to be the election as far as the forums concerned, right? Would I put my name on these forums as the election agent, or would I leave it off 3 of them?
If you know, if you are the agent for that particular candidate,
Yeah.
Can you mark on the forum that which one of the numbers, which candidate your number is going against?
Yes.
And therefore, there's another 3 potentially for the.
Right. So we can
other
just leave it
candidates.
blank in the other 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
I better. Right. Okay. That's fine. Just to make sure. Right. Thank you.
Okay, Gordon, can you see any other hands?
See a hand just going up there.
I've got Dr. Ali Salamati. Can I bring you in?
Yeah, thanks very much. Comprehensive presentation. On the form, previous version shows more than 2 for car park, but on the one which I was filling online, on the Word one, it shows only 2, and we have so many people coming from different places for kind of agents. Is there a limit for each candidate or the supporters to come?
So
in terms of car parking pass, I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah.
The form
So
shows only limited to 2 numbers, you know, it's just for the candidate and the guest, and what about the rest?
Yeah, so we're asking candidates if they can potentially coordinate transport with the agents and others who'll be attending for them. We are limited in the numbers, so it's 2 car parking passes per candidate. Now, it is possible that not every candidate will take up their allocation, and we'll know that by Thursday lunchtime, Gordon, is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah,
The deadline
lunchtime.
is Wednesday about 5 o'clock. So by Thursday morning we should know.
Okay, and if there is additional passes that are not being taken up by other candidates, what we'll do is circulate all candidates and suggest that there is X number. And it will be pretty well a first come, first served within reason. That, you know, if somebody comes back and says, well, I'd like 3 of them, well, that's not going to be the case, but we would try and allocate out any ones that are not taken up on a first come, first served basis. But it is very tight, the allocation, the car parking space is pretty difficult. And for this election, because of the number of candidates and agents, etc., it's particularly challenging, even when we're splitting in a morning and afternoon format, compared with, for example, a parliamentary election. So we're trying to do our best by each of the candidates. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you. It's good that we can, you know, car share at this time. If it was a few weeks back, it would have been big, you know, difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for doing that. Barbara, can I bring you in, please?
Done it the wrong way around. Is there a special allowance for anyone who's up in the morning and afternoon session? Because obviously they can't be offering car share for the session that most of their agents wouldn't be involved in.
We had
Sorry,
indicated.
no,
it's okay. No, it's okay. We'd indicated that those individuals would be provided with a morning and afternoon pass, so that they're not having to leave to come back, if that makes sense. Again, we're just limited in numbers, so we'll see if there's passes that are returned to us. As I said, we'll circulate those around, but at this stage I can't guarantee that, because everyone might take up their allocation, and that'll mean we'll get a full car park. The other thing, just to add to that, the other thing I can't legislate for is someone maybe a part of the initial declarations and then chooses to get in their car and leaves. So I'll leave a car parking space, but again, I can't legislate for that. I don't know that that'd be the case. Or someone might decide to come later in the session because they expect their declaration to be later on. So again, these are things that I can't really predict. And if I sell the horse more than once, I could end up with some disappointed people who have a pass but haven't got a space to put the car. So I'll try and work it as best we can. Dr. Salamati, can I bring you back in?
Thank you. Just one last question. Can we submit the Word form in Word for kind of format? And in terms of signature, is it essential I have to print it and sign it, or electronic signature is accepted? Because I don't have printer, and I would like to submit it electronically.
For that one, Gordon?
Generally, we would insist on a hard copy signature, whether that's signed and then scanned into us. It's just because you're effectively agreeing that those that you nominate are going to comply with the requirements of secrecy, that they're properly nominated by you. I'm a lawyer myself. I would normally always insist on a wet signature. So if you're able to print out, scan it, sign it, and then scan it to us, then we would accept that. But a form without a signature.
If you don't have a printer, though, if you were able to get to the council offices, we would print and give you an option to sign.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands. So first of all, thank you for attending today. Hopefully you found today helpful and it's given you relevant information. As I'd mentioned, the intent here is to just run an accurate election process that gives confidence and above all else that everyone remains safe within this. So I appreciate that some who are viewing the recording might not have been able to attend today, but if there are any questions arising from today's presentation prior to the count processes, please get in touch with us. For those who can, please do take the opportunity to attend the demo. I think you'll find it very helpful and it'll answer an awful lot of questions you might have to save you asking them on the day. And I look forward to I'll maybe just stop again, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, when is the
That's okay.
demo you mentioned? Sorry.
Yeah, it's next week. It's at 2:30 on the Wednesday, isn't it, Gordon? Yeah.
It's the Wednesday, which is the 4th of May.
Yep,
At
and it's at
2:30.
the John Wright Sports Centre. It's in the actual count venue itself. And again, details of that will be in the note from this session. So I was just about to say that some colleagues who couldn't join us today on viewing the recording might have some questions, but again, please get in touch with the election team. We'll do our best to try and answer those in advance of the poll day and the count venue. However, I look forward to seeing you all at the John Wright, if not before, and I wish every one of you, just to be balanced and unbiased, every one of you an enjoyable election process. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Cleland.
Thank you.